Once upon a time, in a small American town named Oakland, I dated a girl named Lillian. We were completely different, but at first sight, I felt there was something special between us. Lillian was a very beautiful, slender, sweet girl. She had sparkling blue eyes that seemed incredibly perceptive, and she had an unusual sense of humor. We spent a lot of time together, traveling around the country, exploring forbidden trails, and enjoying the moment. We started dating after we graduated high school, and we dated for 3 years. She and I had a good thing going. She was working as a designer for photo shoots. I was a computer programmer. We were young and inexperienced in a relationship, so we weren't really serious, as I realized with time. But we were living together, working, developing. At the time, I thought Lillian was the girl who would become my wife in time. We didn't rush into marriage. We just enjoyed a beautiful and peaceful life with each other. I fell in love with Lillian when I was 15. We went to school together and took the same classes. She was always an attractive girl, so she had a lot of friends. She was the center of attention, confident, always able to speak her mind openly, and got things done. I, on the other hand, was more of a nerd and quiet kid. I only had one best friend, Oscar, with whom I worked out different projects in the back of my house. To Lillian, I was a nobody, just someone who went to the same school building as her. So, back to the time when we were dating. But one day, on our 3rd anniversary of our relationship, in the most unexpected moment, a man from Lillian's past came into our lives. Marcus, her first love, and the man she hadn't seen since graduation, was suddenly back. One day, as I was returning from work, an uneasy feeling rose in my heart. I had noticed that Lillian had been acting a little strange the past few weeks. She had become secretive, frequently distracted, and spent less time with me. Despite my attempts to talk to her, she avoided serious conversations and kept silent. My anxiety only grew, so I decided to find out what was going on. I knew I had to be open and honest with Lillian, for without a foundation of trust, our relationship could not succeed. In the evening, I decided to call Lillian and ask her out to discuss our problems. We met in a quiet cafe, and I immediately noticed that Lillian looked tense. Her eyes, once full of warmth and friendliness, now seemed aloof and confused. My heart clenched in pain, but I tried to remain calm. Lillian, I've noticed that you've changed lately. What's going on? We promised to be open with each other. She sighed and lowered her eyes.
I don't know how to say this, but I met Marcus. We met by chance a few months ago and old feelings flared up between us. I tried to hide it from you, but I can't keep quiet anymore.
My hands clenched on the table and my heart pounded harder. Vague thoughts and emotions swirled in my head. Disappointment, confusion, and painful jealousy. All my fears and suspicions were true, but I had to pull myself together and figure it all out. How long did it last? Lillian lowered her head even lower.
We had been seeing each other for weeks. I didn't mean to offend you, but I couldn't resist the temptation. I felt like I'd lost myself and needed to figure out how I really felt.
The words pierced my heart. I felt a mixture of anger, resentment, and bitterness. She knew perfectly well how much I was in love with her, and yet she betrayed our promise to be faithful to each other. Lillian, I don't know what to say. We must decide what to do next. But I can't be with you if you keep seeing Marcus. Lillian looked up and looked at me with deep regret.
I understand. I'm sorry for what happened, and I realize I lost you. But I can't just let go of everything that was between us and forget about Marcus.
The pain pierced my heart even harder, but I knew I had to protect my self-respect and my feelings. Then, Lillian, I'm afraid we need to go our separate ways. I can't be in a relationship where I feel second nature. Those words were hard, but I knew it was the only sensible thing to do. Our relationship was forever broken, and I couldn't stay in feeling like I wasn't important enough. We continued to sit in silence, shrouded in bitterness and disappointment. Everything that had been between us was gone, and I realized that it was now up to me to start picking up the pieces of my broken heart and moving on, looking for new possibilities and happiness. I was stunned and devastated. Our whole story seemed like a lie to me, and I couldn't believe that she could just forget all of our moments of joy and happiness. However, I decided to give her the freedom to choose, even if it meant loss. Lillian spent some time with Marcus, but she soon realized that these feelings were not what they used to be. Marcus turned out not to be who she remembered him to be, and she realized that her heart always belonged to me. But I wasn't ready to get back into a relationship, knowing that I had been traded for someone, especially an ex-boyfriend. Lillian and I separated and didn't see each other for weeks. I still loved her and didn't know where to put my feelings and the depression that came from the betrayal and the betrayal and the breakup. I didn't know what was going on with Lillian, where she was and with whom, whether she had gotten back together with Marcus or whether she was alone. I loved her for a very long time, all those years starting in high school, and I was so glad I got her, and she still went back in time and ruined everything. Let me tell you a little bit about my high school years. The first time I noticed Lillian, I couldn't take my eyes off of her. Her beauty and confidence captured my imagination, but I knew Marcus was the most popular guy in school, and I hardly had a chance. I was a quiet observer, secretly in love with Lillian, but without the courage to express my feelings. At the time, Lillian and Marcus were close friends, and I could only watch them spend time together. Lillian was always shining beside Marcus, and I understood that she was in love with him. It hurt me to see their closeness, but there was nothing I could do to change the situation. The years passed and we continued to study together. Marcus and Lillian still spent a lot of time together, and I stayed in the background, hiding my feelings. I watched them laugh and hug, and my heart was torn apart. I was convinced that Lillian would always love Marcus. When Marcus was at our school, it was a real storm of emotions. He was tall, blonde, athletic build, with sparkling blue eyes. Just by looking at him, all the girls in high school just melted. He had an irresistible appeal and charm that could capture the hearts of anyone who was around him. Marcus was not only handsome, but also talented. He was one of our school's best athletes, and his successes attracted the admiration of all. He stood out on the soccer field and challenged his opponents. His charisma and confidence made him a true star, but at the same time, Marcus was known for his weakness for the opposite sex. He couldn't resist the charms of girls, and that was obvious. He was a real womanizer and was always surrounded by the attention of beautiful girls who sought to be near him. I watched him easily win the hearts of the girls I was interested in. He was a master flirt and always knew what to say and how to behave. I often envied his ability to attract people and evoke such strong emotions. It was hard for me to compete with Marcus because I didn't have his looks and charm. I was a simple guy, humble and not as confident. This sometimes suppressed my self-esteem and made me unsure of my chances. All the girls I liked seemed to turn their attention only to Marcus. I was the exact opposite of Marcus. Although he was good at sports, I was good at studying. I was thin and had no athletic physique, and my physical appearance did not appeal to the people around me. However, I was always eager to develop and had a mindset that helped me succeed in my studies. I spent a lot of time at textbooks, deeply immersed in the world of knowledge, math, science, history. I was into all subjects that required analysis and logical thinking. I read a lot and learned new things, and it helped me broaden my horizons and understanding of the world. Although I was not popular or visible in the eyes of others, I did not worry too much about that. My focus was on achieving personal goals and developing my abilities. I understood that success and respect did not necessarily come with popularity. However, when I got to know Lillian, everything changed. She caught my attention with her beauty, her intelligence, and the warmth that radiated from her eyes. I watched her from afar, and every time she smiled or looked wistfully into the distance, my heart clenched with longing. I was a quiet observer, secretly in love with her, But I always felt that Lillian was unattainable to me. She was surrounded by the attention of other boys, including Marcus, who always attracted universal admiration. I knew there was a chasm between us, and there was little chance that she would pay attention to me. When Lillian and Marcus started dating, my heart sank into an abyss of disappointment. I felt I could never match Marcus. His looks, athletic prowess, and charm. He was everything I wasn't, but luckily for me, Marcus missed his chance and cheated on Lillian with her best friend. I was glad he was now out of competition with me and decided to act. Lillian was having trouble with her math, and I had responded to help her with that. I often stayed with her after class and explained problem solving to her. Soon, we became very good friends, and I confessed my feelings to her. They were mutual, and we decided that after graduation, we would go to college in the same city and live together. After graduation, we each chose our own path in life, striving to realize our dreams and ambitions. Marcus, with his charisma and entrepreneurial spirit, decided to start his own business. In fact, rumor has it his parents helped him a lot, as he spent all his time on trainings. He didn't care about his studies. Probably his parents helped him a lot in his life. But that didn't bother me. I decided to go into programming, and with my assiduity and stamina, I am good at it. The ability to analyze and solve complex problems helped me to become a successful programmer. I worked in leading technology companies, developing innovative products and solutions. My passion for programming brought me not only professional success, but also the satisfaction of creativity and bringing my ideas to life. Now I have my own IT company. After a while, Lillian called me and offered to meet. I wasn't expecting a call from her, but I was excited to see her again. We met, and she hugged me tightly in tears. I didn't know what to do at this point and just stood there in silence. She started apologizing to me, repenting that she had done a terrible and unfair thing to me. She said she had lost herself and so on. I asked if she had seen Marcus since our breakup. She said that she had tried to work things out with him about what had happened and to understand his motives. And he had just decided to take advantage of her again, to confirm that she would always be vulnerable to him. I hadn't expected such an act from a grown man, but I knew for sure Marcus hadn't changed. I forgave Lillian on the condition that she no longer have a chance in anything involving Marcus, even the usual correspondence. I also warned her that it would be difficult for her to gain my trust, and I might not be able to see her often and communicate with her as I used to. She agreed to all the terms. As I said, that's how it worked out. We didn't move in together right away, and I was very cold to Lillian. I devoted all my time to my work and my hobbies. For the first time, I didn't want to see her, so I had to rethink everything and let the situation go. I read books, started going to the gym, and studied everything new in my profession. I was rebuilding my life so that I wouldn't feel like a nobody without a loved one by my side. I was trying to mend my mental health and rebuild my relationship with Lillian properly and gradually. Lillian was fine with this at first. She was happy that I began to engage in my development. But as time went on, she began to miss me. She didn't take care of herself and didn't particularly like her work. Apparently, she felt guilty, and over time, it showed. After a month, she started throwing tantrums and scandals. At first, I tried not to react to them and smooth things over. But then I just ignored her. She was furious. She didn't expect that from me. I was always gentle and submissive, always taking care of her and surprising her. And then suddenly, I was cold and insensitive. I think that happened because I had forgiven her, but she had not forgiven herself. And she herself was looking for the reasons in me, as if I was to blame for all the causes of quarrels and conflicts. I still gave her flowers and complimented her, but she saw the trick. I forgave her, but I no longer saw the Lillian that was in my heart. She was physically there for me, but mentally it wasn't the same person anymore. I didn't tell her that, but my spark had gone out. My heart had grown cold to her. Soon, I received a text message from an unknown number. It contained a video of Lillian and Marcus back together in a hotel. I don't know who sent it to me, but I was grateful to that person. I was relieved. I let her go at that very moment. When Lillian arrived home, I asked her how Marcus was doing and how much was the wine they were drinking at the hotel. She didn't answer anything and just stood there silently, looking me in the eye. I was calm and cool. She told me everything she thought about me, how bad she'd had it with me, and how good Marcus was, how he was better than me times over and always had been. I laughed at her stupidity. A couple of months ago, she told me how he took advantage of her, and now she says he's better than me. There was no saving her. She had lost her value. In front of me, there was just a woman without soul or personality. She was as empty as a doll. She'd gone to Marcus, muttering to herself that he was more promising than me and made more money than me. I didn't have my own company then. I started it a year after the breakup with Lillian. After that, I found out that Lillian was living with Mayorkas. 5 years later, I bought Marcus's company for a ridiculous amount of money. I don't know why I needed it, but I could afford it. Plus, he bankrupted his own company because he couldn't handle it. He was broke, and I was making 10 times what Marcus was making. I showed Lillian without a word that she was wrong to jump to the conclusion that Marcus had always been better than me. She tried to get back at me again, but this time I was firm and adamant. I just blocked out everything to do with her. I'm no longer inspired by people, and I give my whole self to my work. I understand that this is a problem, and I could have had a family and kids a long time ago. But this story has made it very clear to me that the people who are like angels to us are not always. I'm careful in my choice of my environment, but I will definitely get over it.